Jake Morrison stood in the control room of the space station New Haven, watching the screens with growing worry. The coffee in his cup had gone cold hours ago, but he did not notice. His eyes stayed fixed on the data coming from the deep space sensors. Something big was coming toward Earth, and it was not good news. Lisa Park sat at her communication station, her fingers moving fast over the controls. She had been Earth's best long-range communication officer for 5 years, but she had never seen readings like these. The energy patterns were huge, bigger than anything humans had ever built. She looked up at Jake with fear in her eyes. "Commander, the signals are getting stronger," Lisa said, her voice shaking a little. "Whatever is out there, it is massive. The computer says there are at least 50 ships, maybe more." Ben Carter looked up from his tactical screen. He was young, only 26, but he knew more about space combat than most people twice his age. His job was to study enemy movements and predict what they might do next. Right now, his predictions were not making anyone feel better. "Sir, these ships are not like anything in our database," Ben said. "They are moving in perfect formation, and their energy output is off the charts. This looks like an invasion fleet." Jake felt his stomach drop. He had hoped this day would never come, but Earth's military leaders had always known it was possible. Somewhere out in the vast galaxy, there might be aliens who wanted to take their planet. Now it looked like that day had arrived. On the moon, Admiral Kate Sullivan got the news at the same time. She was in charge of Earth's main defense platform, a huge base built inside an old crater. The base had the most powerful weapons humans had ever made, but Kate was not sure they would be enough. She called Jake on the communication link. "Morrison, what are we looking at?" Kate asked. Her voice was calm, but Jake could hear the tension underneath. "Admiral, we have at least 50 alien ships heading our way," Jake replied. "They will reach Earth in about 6 hours. Their technology looks far more advanced than ours." Kate closed her eyes for a moment. She had trained for this situation her whole career, but knowing it was real felt different. She opened her eyes and started giving orders to her team. "All right, people. This is not a drill. I want every weapon system online and every ship we have ready to fight. Contact all Earth governments and tell them to prepare for possible attack." The alien fleet was led by War Marshal Vextar, a tall creature with purple skin and 4 arms. His species, the Zephyrians, had conquered over 300 worlds in the past 1,000 years. To him, this was just another day at work. He stood on the bridge of his flagship, looking at the small blue planet ahead. "Subcommander Kethra, begin the standard scans," Vexitar ordered. His voice had a strange musical quality that humans would find beautiful if they were not so terrified. Kethra was shorter than Vextar, with the same purple skin but only 2 arms. She was in charge of studying new worlds before they conquered them. Her job was to find the best way to make the local species surrender quickly. "War Marshal, the scans show a primitive species," Kethra reported. "They have basic space technology, but their weapons are mostly chemical-based. They should surrender within hours of our arrival." Vexitar nodded. This was exactly what he expected. Every species they had conquered before followed the same pattern. The aliens would arrive, show their superior technology, and the local species would give up rather than face total destruction. It was a system that had worked perfectly for centuries. "Prepare the standard surrender message," Vextar said. "Give them 72 hours to comply. That should be more than enough time for them to realize they cannot win." Back on Earth, Dr. Elena Rodriguez was in her laboratory when the news broke. She was Earth's top expert on alien life, even though she had never actually seen any real aliens before. Her job had been mostly theoretical until now. She dropped her research papers and ran to her computer. Elena had studied every piece of data humans had about possible alien contact. She knew that first contact would be the most dangerous moment in human history. Everything would depend on how both sides reacted in the first few hours. The alien message came exactly 1 hour after they entered Earth's solar system. Every television, radio, and computer on the planet suddenly showed the same image. War Marshal. Vextar appeared on screens around the world, his forearms spread wide in what looked like a gesture of power. "People of Earth," Vextar said in perfect English, "I am War Marshal Vextar of the Zephyrian Empire. Your planet has been selected for incorporation into our domain. You have 72 hours to surrender completely. Any resistance will result in the destruction of your civilization." The message continued for 10 minutes, explaining how the Zephyrians had conquered hundreds of other worlds. They showed images of their powerful weapons and their massive fleet. The message was designed to break the will of any species that saw it. Captain Ryan Hayes was on board the destroyer USS Defiance when the message played. He was a tough man who had served in Earth's Space Navy for 15 years. He had fought pirates and rebels, but never aliens. When Vextar finished his speech, Ryan did something that surprised everyone on his ship. He laughed. "Did this purple guy just threaten us?" Ryan asked his crew. "Did he really think we would just roll over and give up our planet because he has some fancy lights on his ships?" The crew of the Defiance looked at their captain with amazement. They were scared, but Ryan's reaction made them feel a little braver. If their captain was not afraid, maybe they did not need to be either. Elena Rodriguez watched the alien message with growing interest. She noticed something that the military leaders had missed. The Zephyrian ships were beautiful, with smooth curves and bright lights, but they did not look like they were built for real war. They looked like they were built to impress and intimidate. "These are not warships," Elena said to herself. "These are showboats. They are designed to make people surrender without fighting." She called Admiral Sullivan immediately. "Admiral, I think I know something important about these aliens," Elena said. "Their ships are not designed for sustained combat. They are designed for quick psychological victories. They expect us to give up without a real fight." Kate Sullivan felt a spark of hope. Maybe Earth had a chance after all. "Doctor, are you saying their technology might not be as good as it looks?" "I am saying their strategy depends on fear," Elena replied. "They have never had to fight a real war because everyone else gave up too quickly. We might be able to surprise them." As the 72-hour deadline approached, Earth's leaders made their decision. They would not surrender. They would fight for their planet no matter how advanced the alien technology seemed. Jake Morrison prepared his station for battle. Lisa Park checked all communication systems. Ben Carter studied the alien formations, looking for weaknesses. Admiral Sullivan armed every weapon Earth had. The Zephyrians waited for Earth's surrender message, confident that it would come. They had seen this pattern hundreds of times before. The local species would realize they could not win, and they would give up to save their lives. But as the deadline passed, no surrender message came. Instead, Earth sent a different kind of message. Captain Ryan Hayes broadcast it from the USS Defiance, speaking for all of humanity. "To the Zephyrian Empire," Ryan said, "Earth's answer is no. We will not surrender our planet. If you want it, you will have to take it. And we promise you, that will not be easy." War Marshal Vextar received the message with confusion. In 300 conquests, no species had ever refused to surrender. He looked at Sub-Commander Kethra with uncertainty. "Perhaps they did not understand our message," Kethra suggested. "Maybe their translation was wrong." But Vextar had a growing feeling that something was different about these humans. For the first time in his long career, he felt something he had never experienced before. He felt nervous. War Marshal Vextar decided to begin the attack at dawn. He had never needed more than a few hours to break any species' will to fight. The Zephyrian way was simple: show overwhelming power, destroy a few targets, and wait for surrender. It had worked on every world they had ever visited. "Begin the bombardment," Vextar ordered. "Target their major population centers, but do not destroy them completely. We want them to see our power, not turn their planet into dust." The Zephyrian ships moved into position above Earth's biggest cities, their weapons charged with a sound like singing crystal. Beams of pure energy lanced down from space, striking military bases and government buildings. The attacks were precise and controlled, designed to show power without causing too much damage. Vextar expected panic and immediate calls for surrender. Instead, something happened that had never occurred in Zephyrian history. The humans shot back. Colonel Steve Mason was in charge of Earth's missile defense systems. When the alien beams started falling, he did not hesitate. He had spent 20 years preparing for this moment, even though he had never really believed it would come. "Launch everything we have," Steve ordered. "Hit them with nuclear missiles, conventional weapons, everything. Show these aliens that humans do not go down easy." The modified nuclear missiles streaked up from Earth toward the Zephyrian fleet. The aliens watched in amazement as primitive chemical rockets somehow found their way through the Zephyrian defense systems. Several alien ships took direct hits, their beautiful crystal hulls cracking under the assault. "Impossible, Sub-Commander," Kethra said, staring at her screens. "Their weapons should not be able to penetrate our shields. How are they hitting us?" What the Zephyrians did not understand was that humans had been fighting wars for thousands of years. They knew how to adapt their tactics quickly when facing new enemies. The nuclear missiles had been modified with guidance systems that looked for energy patterns rather than physical targets. Lieutenant Amy Foster was coordinating ground forces when the alien attack began. She was only 28 years old, but she had studied every military strategy book ever written. When she saw the alien ships attacking in perfect formation, she knew exactly what to do. "They are too organized," Amy told her team. They attack in patterns because they expect us to panic and run. Instead, we are going to hit them where they do not expect it. Amy's forces use guerrilla tactics that the Zephyrians had never seen before. Small groups of humans attacked alien landing parties from hidden positions, then disappeared before the aliens could respond. The Zephyrians found themselves fighting an enemy that seemed to know what they would do before they did it. The most shocking moment came when Sergeant Tony Blake led an assault on an alien supply depot. Tony was a big man who had grown up hunting in the woods of Montana. To him, fighting aliens was not much different from hunting dangerous animals. You studied their habits, found their weaknesses, and struck when they least expected it. These purple guys fight like they are in a parade, Tony told his squad. All pretty formations and fancy moves. Let's show them what a real fight looks like. Tony's team destroyed the alien depot using nothing but explosives and determination. But what really shocked the Zephyrians was Tony's reaction to the battle. Instead of being tired or scared, he seemed energized by the combat. He actually smiled as he called in the successful mission. The Zephyrians had encountered many species, but they had never met one that seemed to enjoy fighting. Their own people fought when necessary, but they did not find pleasure in combat. Humans were different in ways that disturbed them. Dr. Elena Rodriguez was studying captured Zephyrian technology when she made an important discovery. Working with physicist Dr. Paul Chen, she found something that explained why the aliens seemed so confused by human tactics. "Paul, look at these weapon designs," Elena said, pointing at the alien energy projectors. "They are built for quick, overwhelming attacks. But look at the power systems. They cannot sustain fire for more than a few minutes." Paul studied the data and nodded. "You are right. These weapons are designed to break enemy morale quickly, not to fight a long battle. The aliens have never needed to fight a real war because everyone else gave up too fast. This discovery was sent immediately to all human military commanders. If the alien weapons could not fight for long periods, then humans had a real advantage. Humans were used to long, grinding conflicts that lasted for months or years. Commander Alice Turner was leading the space battle when she received this information. She was in charge of Earth's small fleet of military spacecraft, ships that looked primitive compared to the beautiful Zephyrian vessels. But Alice had something the aliens did not expect: the ability to think like a pirate. If their weapons cannot fire for long, then we make them waste their shots, Alice told her pilots. Hit-and-run tactics. Make them chase us around and tire out their systems. Alice's strategy worked perfectly. The Zephyrian ships found themselves chasing human fighters that seemed to know exactly when to attack and when to retreat. The aliens fired their powerful weapons at empty space, while the humans struck at their weak points. The most surprising moment came when Alice managed to capture a damaged Zephyrian scout ship. She had no training on alien technology, but she figured out how to fly it in less than an hour. Soon she was leading attacks using the aliens' own weapons against them. War Marshal Vextar watched his perfect invasion falling apart. The humans were supposed to surrender after seeing Zephyrian power. Instead, they were fighting back with tactics that made no sense. How could primitive beings adapt so quickly to advanced technology? "Sub-Commander, I need a full analysis of human combat behavior, Vexitar ordered. These creatures are not acting like any species we have encountered before. Kethra was already working on the problem, but the data made no sense. War Marshal, the humans show no standard fear responses to our psychological attacks. In fact, some of them seem to become more aggressive when threatened. Our computers cannot predict their behavior patterns. What the Zephyrians did not understand was that humans had evolved as hunters. For millions of years, humans had chased down prey that was bigger, stronger, and faster than they were. They had learned to never give up, to keep trying new approaches, until something worked. Corporal Maria Santos was defending a human base when she demonstrated this hunting instinct. The Zephyrians attacked her position with overwhelming force, expecting her small team to retreat. Instead, Maria studied the alien attack patterns and found a weakness. They always attack from the same direction, Maria told her squad. They think their superior firepower means they do not need tactics. Let's circle around and hit them from behind. Maria's counterattack caught the aliens completely by surprise. They had never faced an enemy that would attack when outnumbered and outgunned. The human assault broke their formation and forced them to retreat. But the most disturbing discovery for the Zephyrians came when they analyzed human prisoners. The aliens expected captured humans to be broken and defeated. Instead, they found beings who used their time in captivity to study their captors. Marine Corporal Nick Edwards was captured during a failed assault on an alien position. The Zephyrians thought they had taken a valuable prisoner who could give them information about human tactics. Instead, Nick spent his time in the alien prison learning about Zephyrian technology and security procedures. When Nick escaped 3 days later, he took detailed information about alien ship designs and communication codes. He also sabotaged the Zephyrian base on his way out, destroying equipment that took weeks to replace. These humans do not break under pressure, Kethra reported to Vextar. Instead, they seem to use pressure to become stronger. This is completely outside our understanding of normal species behavior. For the first time in his career, War Marshal Vextar began to doubt that the Zephyrian Empire would win this battle. His ships had taken more damage in 3 weeks of fighting humans than they had taken in the previous century of conquering other worlds. The situation became critical when Sergeant Kelly Brooks led a suicide mission against the Zephyrian flagship. Kelly was a small woman who had grown up in the rough neighborhoods of Detroit. She had joined the military to escape poverty, but she had found something more valuable. A cause worth dying for. I am not letting these aliens take our planet, Kelly told her team as they prepared for the mission. Even if we do not make it back, we are going to hurt them bad enough that they remember Earth forever. Kelly's team used a captured alien transport to get close to the Zephyrian flagship. Once they were inside the enemy ship, they fought their way to the main weapon systems and destroyed them with explosives. Kelly died in the explosion, but her sacrifice crippled the most powerful ship in the alien fleet. Her final message to the Zephyrians was broadcast on all frequencies. Earth sends its regards. War Marshal Vextar stood on his damaged flagship, looking at the small blue planet that had cost him so much. For the first time in Zephyrian history, an invasion was failing. The humans were not just fighting back, they were winning. Sub-Commander, contact the High Command, Vextar said quietly. Tell them we need reinforcements. Sir, how many ships should I request? Kethra asked. 3 weeks had passed since the Zephyrian invasion began, and War Marshal Vexatar was starting to understand that he had made the biggest mistake of his long career. The humans were not behaving like any species his people had ever encountered. Instead of breaking under pressure, they seemed to get stronger with each battle. Captain Rick Thompson proved this point when he led the most impossible mission in human military history. Rick was a former Navy SEAL who had volunteered for the new Space Combat Division when Earth started building its defense forces. He was 42 years old, built like a brick wall, and had never met a problem he could not solve with determination and creative thinking. Sir, the alien command ship has shields that can stop our missiles, Rick's lieutenant told him as they prepared for the mission. How are we supposed to get inside? Rick smiled and held up a modified atmospheric suit and a welding torch. We are going to walk in the front door. Sometimes the simplest approach is the best one. What Rick had figured out was something that the Zephyrian designers had never considered. Their ships were built to defend against advanced energy weapons and guided missiles. They had never thought about someone simply floating up to their hull and cutting a hole with basic tools. Rick's team used small maneuvering units to approach the Zephyrian command ship while it was focused on attacking Earth's orbital defenses. They found a section of the hull where the alien sensors had a blind spot and started cutting their way inside. The Zephyrians detected the hull breach, but they could not believe what their sensors were telling them. The idea that primitive beings would attack their most advanced warship using nothing but cutting tools was so impossible that many alien officers thought it was a sensor malfunction. Sub-Commander, our sensors show humans inside Section 7, a Zephyrian technician reported to Kethra. But that is impossible. No primitive species has ever attempted a boarding action against our vessels. Kethra checked the sensor data herself and felt something that Zephyrians rarely experienced. Pure confusion. The humans had somehow entered their ship through a method so simple that Zephyrian security had never considered it. Rick and his team moved through the alien ship like ghosts. They had studied captured Zephyrian technology for weeks, and they knew exactly where to go. The aliens had designed their ships to be beautiful and efficient, but they had never considered the need for internal security against boarding parties. These hallways are too wide and too straight, Rick told his team over their communication system. They built this ship like a palace, not a warship. No cover, no defensive positions. These people have never fought a real war. Rick's assessment was correct. The Zephyrians had conquered so many worlds through intimidation that they had forgotten how to design ships for actual combat. Their vessels were works of art that happened to carry weapons, not true military ships. The boarding party reached the ship's main computer core in less than 20 minutes. Rick placed explosive charges throughout the system while his team kept watch. When they detonated the explosives, the entire Zephyrian command ship lost its ability to coordinate attacks. But Rick's mission had an unexpected side effect. As his team fought their way back to their entry point, they captured a Zephyrian officer who was trying to stop them. The alien was so shocked by what had happened that he could barely speak. "Impossible," the Zephyrian kept saying in broken English. "Primitives cannot defeat advanced civilization. Computer models say impossible." Rick looked at the captured alien with something like pity. "You guys have been winning fights for so long that you forgot how to have a real one. We have been fighting each other for thousands of years. This is what we do." Meanwhile, Major Sophie Grant was proving that human adaptability worked just as well in space as it did on the ground. Sophie was a test pilot who had been flying experimental aircraft since she was 25. When the alien invasion began, she volunteered to fly modified human fighters against the advanced Zephyrian ships. The aliens had energy weapons that could destroy human aircraft in one shot, and their ships were faster and more maneuverable than anything Earth had built. On paper, Sophie should not have had any chance of success, but Sophie did not fight on paper. "The alien pilots are too perfect," Sophie told her squadron before their next mission. "They fly in textbook formations and use optimal attack patterns. That makes them predictable. We are going to do everything wrong, and that will make us impossible to predict." Sophie's tactics were based on a simple idea. If the aliens expected humans to act logically, then humans should act as illogically as possible. Her squadron flew in formations that made no tactical sense, attacked from angles that should have been suicide, and used weapons in ways they were never designed for. The result was chaos that the Zephyrian computers could not analyze. Sophie shot down 3 alien fighters in her first engagement by doing things that were technically impossible according to Zephyrian tactical databases. Human fighter craft do not follow logical attack patterns, the alien pilots reported to their commanders. "Our tactical computers cannot predict their movements because their movements do not make sense." But Sophie's greatest success came when she managed to capture an intact Zephyrian fighter. She had damaged the alien ship's engines and forced it to land on Earth's moon. Instead of destroying the ship, she studied it for 3 hours and then figured out how to fly it. "This thing handles like a race car," Sophie reported to Earth Command as she took the alien fighter on its first flight under human control. "Fast and smooth, but no personality. I can work with this." Within a week, Sophie was leading attacks using Zephyrian fighters against Zephyrian ships. The aliens found themselves being shot down by their own technology, operated by pilots who fought in ways that violated every rule of space combat. Lieutenant Dan Walker was proving that human engineering skills could be just as dangerous as human combat skills. Dan was a mechanical engineer who had been working on experimental spacecraft propulsion before the invasion. When the war started, he was assigned to study captured alien technology. What Dan discovered in his garage workshop outside Detroit would change the entire war. Working with nothing but basic tools and incredible determination, he managed to reverse engineer Zephyrian shield technology in less than 2 weeks. The alien shields work on harmonic resonance, Dan explained to a group of amazed scientists. They create a frequency field that deflects energy weapons. But I figured out how to reverse the polarity and use their own frequency against them. Dan's discovery meant that human ships could now use Zephyrian shields to protect themselves. But more importantly, it meant that humans could modify the shield frequency to penetrate alien defenses. Dan had turned the aliens' greatest defensive advantage into a human weapon. The breakthrough came when Dan tested his modified shields on a captured Zephyrian weapon. Instead of being deflected, the human-modified energy beam passed right through the alien defenses and destroyed the target. "We can beat their shields," Dan reported to Admiral Sullivan. "Give me 2 weeks and I can outfit every human ship with shield-penetrating weapons." War Marshal Vextar was beginning to realize that his people had made a fundamental error in the understanding human nature. The Zephyrians had assumed that humans were like every other species they had conquered, logical beings who would surrender when faced with superior force. Instead, humans seemed to thrive on impossible challenges. The more hopeless their situation became, the more creative and dangerous they became. It was a behavior pattern that Zephyrian psychology could not explain. "Sub-Commander, our casualty reports are unacceptable," Vexitar told Kethra. "We have lost more ships in 3 weeks of fighting humans than we lost in the previous century of conquests." Kethra had been studying human behavior patterns, and her reports were deeply disturbing. "War Marshal, I believe the humans are fundamentally different from any species we have encountered. They appear to have evolved specifically for warfare." "Explain," Vextar ordered. "Every aspect of human biology and psychology seems designed for combat," Kethra replied. "They have exceptional adaptability. They learn from failure instead of being discouraged by it. And they actually seem to enjoy challenges that would break other species. They are natural warriors." Marine Corporal Nick Edwards proved Kethra's point when he escaped from Zephyrian captivity for the second time. The aliens had thought they had learned from his first escape and had placed him in a more secure prison. Instead, Nick used his time in captivity to learn even more about Zephyrian technology and security procedures. When Nick escaped, he took with him detailed plans of the alien prison ship and information about Zephyrian communication codes. He also managed to rescue 12 other human prisoners and sabotage the ship's life support systems on his way out. "These humans do not stay captured," the Zephyrian prison commander reported to his superiors. "They use imprisonment as an opportunity to gather intelligence and plan counterattacks. This is completely outside normal prisoner behavior." The situation reached a crisis point when Sergeant Kelly Brooks's sacrifice inspired other humans to attempt equally dangerous missions. Her death had not discouraged human resistance. It had made them more determined than ever to fight back. 2 months had passed since what was supposed to be a 3-day conquest began, and the Zephyrian Empire was facing a crisis that threatened their entire civilization. War Marshal Vextar stood on the bridge of his damaged flagship looking at reports that made no sense according to everything his people knew about warfare. The humans had not only survived the initial attack, but they had begun launching counterattacks throughout the solar system. What was worse, they were winning those attacks using weapons and tactics that should have been impossible for a primitive species to develop. Commander Jake Morrison had become something that the Zephyrians had never faced before: a human military leader who understood alien technology better than the aliens themselves. Jake now commanded the newly formed Human Resistance Fleet, a collection of captured, modified, and hybrid human-alien vessels that fought with a coordination that baffled Zephyrian tactical computers. The alien ships are designed for specific combat roles, Jake explained to his officers during a strategy meeting. They have dedicated fighters, dedicated bombers, dedicated command ships, but they never expected anyone to mix and match their technology the way we do. Captain Linda Gray, who had been flying commercial spacecraft before the invasion, now commanded a modified Zephyrian cruiser that had been captured and rebuilt with human weapon systems. She had learned to fly alien technology by treating it like an oversized puzzle, figuring out each system through trial and error. The aliens build their ships like they expect everything to go according to plan, Linda told Jake. But we build our ships like we expect everything to go wrong. That gives us options they do not have. Major Chris Johnson had taken this philosophy even further. He commanded a squadron of fighters that were part human technology and part captured alien systems. His ships looked like mechanical nightmares, but they could outfight anything the Zephyrians had. Pretty ships are for parades, Chris said. Ugly ships are for winning wars. The Zephyrians tried desperately to end the conflict by deploying their most advanced weapons. They brought out reality-warping devices that could bend space and time, hoping to destroy the human fleet in ways that conventional defenses could not stop. Instead, the humans did something that no other species had ever attempted. They studied the reality-warping technology while it was being used against them, figured out how it worked, and started building defenses against it. Dr. Helen Burke was the physicist who made this breakthrough possible. She had been studying theoretical physics at MIT when the invasion began, and she had volunteered to help analyze alien technology. What she discovered changed the entire nature of the war. The alien reality warpers work by manipulating quantum probability fields, Helen explained to a room full of amazed scientists. But quantum fields follow mathematical rules. If you understand the math, you can predict what the warpers will do and prepare countermeasures. Helen's work led to the development of quantum shields that could protect human ships from reality warping attacks. But more importantly, it led to human weapons that could use the same quantum manipulation technology against the aliens. Colonel Jim Parker was the tactical genius who figured out how to use quantum weapons in combat. Jim had been a chess master before joining the military, and he approached warfare like a complex game with constantly changing rules. The aliens use their quantum weapons like hammers, Jim told his staff. They apply maximum force and expect their enemies to break. But quantum fields can be precise as well as powerful. We can use them like scalpels instead of hammers. Jim's quantum weapons could target specific systems on alien ships while leaving the rest of the vessel intact. This meant that humans could disable Zephyrian ships without destroying them, allowing them to capture even more alien technology. The psychological effect on the Zephyrian forces was devastating. They had brought their most advanced weapons to the battlefield, only to watch primitive humans learn to use those weapons better than they could. Sub-Commander Kethra reported incidents of Zephyrian officers suffering from what humans would recognize as combat stress. War Marshal, our crews are experiencing psychological breakdown, Kethra reported. They have never faced an enemy that could match our technology, and they do not know how to cope with sustained warfare. What the Zephyrians did not understand was that humans had been preparing for this kind of conflict their entire evolutionary history. Humans had spent millions of years competing against other humans, developing better weapons, better tactics, and better strategies. War was not something humans did. It was something humans were. Dr. Carl Foster and Dr. Nancy Kim proved this point when they managed to reverse engineer and improve upon Zephyrian energy shield technology in just 3 weeks. Working in a makeshift laboratory built inside an abandoned subway tunnel, they created shield generators that were more efficient and more powerful than the original alien designs. The aliens build their technology like they expect it to last forever, Carl explained. But we build our technology like we expect to replace it with something better next week. That means we are always improving while they are standing still. The breakthrough came when Nancy figured out how to combine human power generation with alien shield technology. The result was defensive systems that could protect entire cities from orbital bombardment. We just made their primary weapons useless, Nancy reported to Earth Command. They can bombard us all day, and we can sit here drinking coffee. Captain Ryan Hayes had become a legend among both human and alien forces. He now commanded a ship that was equal parts human engineering and captured alien technology, and he used it to lead attacks that seemed impossible even by the new standards of the war. Ryan's greatest victory came when he led an assault on the Zephyrian Mobile Command Base, a massive space station that coordinated all alien operations in the solar system. The attack was so well planned and executed that Zephyrian analysts concluded they were facing a species that had evolved specifically for military conquest. The human attack patterns show systematic weaknesses in our defense protocols, the Zephyrian Tactical Computer reported. Probability assessment indicates human species has natural warfare instincts that exceed normal parameters. What the computer could not understand was that Ryan had grown up hunting deer in the forests of Oregon. To him, attacking alien space stations was just hunting on a larger scale. You studied your prey, learned its habits, and struck when it was most vulnerable. The mobile command base had been designed to be impregnable, protected by overlapping shield systems, and defended by the most advanced Zephyrian weapons. But it had never been designed to defend against an enemy that would approach from 6 different directions simultaneously while using the base's own defensive systems against it. Ryan's attack destroyed the command base and left the entire Zephyrian fleet without central coordination. For the first time in the war, human forces outnumbered and outgunned their alien opponents in a major engagement. War Marshal Vextar found himself in a situation that no Zephyrian commander had faced in over 1,000 years. His invasion force was not just failing, it was being systematically destroyed by an enemy that learned from every mistake and improved with every battle. "Sub-Commander, prepare a message to the High Command," Vextar ordered. "Tell them that we require immediate evacuation of all Zephyrian forces from this system." Kethra looked at her commander with shock. "Sir, are you requesting a strategic withdrawal?" "I am requesting a retreat," Vextar said quietly. "We cannot win this war. The humans are not just defending their planet. They are learning to become a spacefaring military power. If we do not leave soon, they may decide to follow us home. The idea of humans developing interstellar travel was terrifying to the Zephyrians, a species that could reverse engineer alien technology in weeks and improve upon it in months would be unstoppable if they gained access to faster-than-light travel. But Vextar's request for evacuation was denied by the Zephyrian High Command. The Empire had never retreated from any world, and they were not willing to start with Earth. Instead, they ordered Vextar to continue fighting until reinforcements could arrive. "Tell the High Command that reinforcements will not be enough," Vextar replied. "The humans are not just fighting us. They are learning from us. Every ship we send just gives them more technology to capture and improve." The final blow to Zephyrian morale came when intelligence reports confirmed their worst fears. Human engineering teams were already working on faster-than-light propulsion systems based on captured Zephyrian technology. If the humans succeeded, they would become the greatest threat the galaxy had ever known. Dr. Elena Rodriguez had been leading the faster-than-light research project, working with the best human scientists and the most advanced alien technology. What she discovered was both exciting and terrifying. "We can build interstellar ships," Elena reported to Earth's leadership. "The alien technology is actually simpler than we thought. We can have a prototype ready in 6 months. Admiral Kate Sullivan realized the implications immediately. If humans could travel between stars, they could take the war to the Zephyrians' home worlds. The aliens would face the same choice they had given to every species they had conquered: surrender or be destroyed. The message came through on a frequency that Earth had never used before, transmitted with Zephyrian technology but using human diplomatic protocols. War Marshal Vextar appeared on screens throughout the human command structure, but this time he looked very different from the confident conqueror who had demanded surrender 3 months earlier. "Leaders of Earth," Vextar began, his forearms held in what human analysts recognized as a gesture of submission. "I am War Marshal Vextar of the Zephyrian Empire. I request immediate cessation of hostilities and permission to meet with your representatives to discuss terms." Admiral Kate Sullivan was in the command center of the space station Unity when the message arrived. She looked around the room at the other human leaders, seeing the same mixture of surprise and suspicion on every face. After months of brutal warfare, the aliens wanted to talk. "This could be a trap," Colonel Steve Mason warned. "They might be trying to get us to lower our defenses." Dr. Elena Rodriguez had been studying Zephyrian behavior patterns since the invasion began, and she had noticed something in Vextar's message that the military officers had missed. "Look at his body language," she said. "Zephyrian posture indicates extreme stress and defeat. This is not the behavior of someone planning an ambush." President Aaron Mitchell had been coordinating Earth's resistance from a secure bunker beneath the Rocky Mountains. He had watched his planet fight off the most advanced military force in the galaxy, and he had seen humans achieve things that should have been impossible. Now he had to decide whether to trust the same aliens who had tried to destroy his world. "Set up the meeting," Aaron decided, "but we meet on our terms in our space with our security. If they want to talk, they can come to us. The meeting was arranged to take place aboard the space station Unity, which had become the symbol of human resistance. The station was defended by the most advanced weapons Earth had developed, including modified Zephyrian technology that had been improved by human engineers. Commander Jake Morrison and Captain Ryan Hayes would represent the military perspective, while Dr. Elena Rodriguez would provide analysis of alien behavior. President Mitchell would lead the negotiations, with Admiral Sullivan providing strategic oversight. War Marshal Vextar arrived in a small diplomatic vessel accompanied only by Sub-Commander Kethra and 2 Zephyrian cultural specialists. The aliens submitted to human security procedures without complaint, allowing themselves to be scanned and escorted like prisoners rather than negotiators. When Vextar entered the meeting room, Jake Morrison was struck by how different the alien leader looked from the proud conqueror who had threatened Earth months earlier. The war marshal moved like a defeated being, his purple skin pale and his 4 arms trembling slightly. "Thank you for agreeing to this meeting," Vextar said in English that was now fluent rather than mechanical. "I come before you not as a conqueror, but as a being who has learned terrible truths about the nature of war and the consequences of arrogance." President Mitchell studied the alien leader carefully. "You demanded our surrender 3 months ago. Now you want to talk. What changed your mind?" Vextar looked directly at the human president, and for the first time, humans saw something in alien eyes that they recognized. Fear. "You changed our mind, President Mitchell. You and your species have accomplished something that no other beings in galactic history have ever done. You have defeated the Zephyrian Empire not through superior technology, but through something far more dangerous." "Which is?" Admiral Sullivan asked. "Superior evolution," Sub-Commander Kethra answered. "Our analysis indicates that humans are the galaxy's apex predator species. Every aspect of your development, from your biology to your psychology to your social structures, has created beings who are naturally adapted for warfare and survival." Dr. Rodriguez leaned forward with interest. "Explain what you mean by apex predator species." Vextar activated a holographic display that showed data the Zephyrians had collected during their months of fighting humans. The information was staggering in its scope and disturbing in its implications. Humans evolved as persistence hunters, Vextar explained. You chased prey across vast distances until it collapsed from exhaustion. This gave you several traits that no other species we have encountered possesses in combination. Unlimited endurance, the ability to adapt tactics during pursuit, and the psychological drive to never give up. Captain Ryan Hayes listened to this analysis with growing amazement. "You are saying we are naturally built for war?" "You are naturally built for winning," Kethra replied. "Your species practices what you call sports, which are ritualized combat training. You create fiction about warfare and conflict. You study military history as entertainment. Most species avoid conflict whenever possible. Humans seek it out. Commander, Jake Morrison thought about his own background and realized the aliens were right. He had joined the military not because he had to, but because he wanted to. The challenge of tactical problems and strategic thinking was something he genuinely enjoyed. But that's not the most disturbing discovery we made, Vextar continued. The weapons and tactics you used against us represent only a fraction of human military capability. Our intelligence indicates that you were deliberately holding back your most devastating weapons. President Mitchell nodded grimly. We didn't want to destroy your entire fleet. We wanted you to be able to leave and tell other species what happened here. This statement caused visible distress among the Zephyrian representatives. The idea that humans had been fighting at less than full capacity was more terrifying than any weapon they had encountered. You were testing us, Vextar said quietly. You were evaluating our capabilities while hiding your own. This is the behavior of a species that has fought so many wars that warfare has become an instinct. Dr. Elena Rodriguez found this analysis fascinating rather than disturbing. What you are describing is the result of millions of years of evolution. Humans competed against other humans for resources, territory, and survival. We became good at war because we had to be. Other species in the galaxy evolved differently, Kethra explained. Most intelligent beings developed cooperation and avoided conflict. The Zephyrian Empire succeeded because we could intimidate species that were naturally peaceful. But intimidation does not work against a species that views conflict as a natural state. Admiral Sullivan asked the question that everyone was thinking. What do you want from us? War Marshal Vextar stood and performed what humans recognized as a formal surrender gesture. The Zephyrian Empire formally requests forgiveness for our attack on your world. We also request immediate cessation of hostilities and the establishment of a peace treaty. You are surrendering? Commander Morrison asked. We are pleading, Vextar replied. Our High Command has voted to classify humanity as a progenitor species, a designation we reserve for being so dangerous that the galaxy's survival depends on never antagonizing them. President Mitchell leaned back in his chair, trying to process what he was hearing. How many progenitor species are there? Including humans, there is now one, Kethra answered. No other species has ever earned this classification. The room fell silent as the humans absorbed this information. They had not just won a war, they had become the most feared species in the galaxy without even trying. What are you offering in exchange for peace? Admiral Sullivan asked. Vextar activated another holographic display showing star charts and technological specifications. Complete access to Zephyrian technology, including faster-than-light travel, advanced manufacturing, and medical technology. We also offer star charts showing the location of every world in our territory. And in return? President Mitchell asked. We ask that humanity show mercy, Vextar said. The Zephyrian Empire will liberate all worlds we have conquered and establish a galactic council where freed species can govern themselves. We will serve as cultural liaisons and provide technological assistance for peaceful development. Dr. Elena Rodriguez was amazed by the scope of what the aliens were offering. You are willing to give up your entire empire? We are willing to transform it, Kethra replied. Under human guidance, the former Zephyrian Empire can become a federation of free worlds working together for mutual benefit rather than conquest. Captain A. Ryan Hayes asked the practical question. What guarantee do we have that you will keep this agreement? War Marshal Vex Tar looked at the human captain with something like admiration. Captain, you have seen what humans can accomplish with captured alien technology. If we break this agreement, you will have faster-than-light ships and the tactical knowledge to find every Zephyrian world in the galaxy. We would face the same choice we gave you, surrender or destruction. The negotiations continued for 3 days with human leaders carefully considering every aspect of the alien proposal. Finally, President Mitchell announced Earth's decision. We accept your surrender and your offer of technological exchange, he said. But we have additional conditions. The Galactic Council you mentioned will be headquartered on Earth, and humans will have a permanent seat on the governing board. Any species that wants to join the Federation will be welcome, but any species that attempts conquest will face human intervention. Vex Tar agreed immediately.